Hello. Do you know what time it is? It's beer time. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Beer Time with me, T-Bone Troy. Special guest, JC. Welcome to a little tasting league.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Always.
What have you brought us?
Okay, so here I've got one of my inspirational beers, Orval. From Belgium, an amazing beer, and what makes it so amazing is that it changes. You know, they give a 5-year shelf life, and I've never had it fresh from the brewery, but I've heard that it's almost like a hopped English ale.
It says serve between 12 and 14 degrees.
So warm. I suppose it is cold in Belgium most of the time. So
it's nice little glasses.
And then we've got our new release of our black IPA, the Black Southeaster. Not as hoppy punch as our Blockhouse, because we're trying to let some of the roast character come through as well.
And then I've bought a third beer. It is from Wired, a New Zealand brewery. It is an Imperial Stout aged in Pinot Noir wine barrels. Awesome. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, that should be great.
Not sure what to expect, but as I say on every show, let's do this. Would you like the honors? So what kind of characteristics should we expect?
So it's a Trappist beer, so it's made in that style. It's dry hopped and it is finished off with Brett. So that's what makes it so interesting in the fact that it evolved 6 months after bottling. It's very different. The Brett character starts coming through. This is now almost a year old from bottling, so we should be getting some good Brett character coming. The hops is obviously going to subside.
Completely different from when it's bottled to now.
That's what people say. This is a really alive beer. I'd love to see one that's 5 years old. No idea how it would be, but I've never managed to keep one that long.
I doubt it. Well, let's have a look at this. Got a beautiful orange color, caramel malts that go in there. Oh wow.
And there you get the bread.
So is that horse blanket smell we spoke about earlier?
Yeah, it's kind of also a bit biscuity.
Not in a bad way, in a nice way.
Yeah, it's got a funk to it, farmyard.
It's almost like I'm getting a bit of sea salt.
Yeah.
A little ocean spray.
Yeah.
Maybe some seaweed. Wow, there's an initial sourness, but it instantly goes away.
Yeah, it's got a rich character to it as well, but it's not a super high, rich, sort of high in alcohol beer. It's got fantastic balance as well.
Now, when you talk about balance here, there's obviously a lot of flavors that come through. How is that balance coming through in terms of the hops and the malt? Because right now, hops is on quite a low scale.
It's low. I mean, there's a nice hop bitterness.
It's almost like a yeast-forward beer.
Yeah. But it's a live beer, the yeast is there, the Brett is there, it's doing its work, it's changing the beer every month. I mean, I've always wondered, because they do say store it cool, but obviously yeast are dictated by temperature. What would happen if you had to store this warm? I don't know. I mean, I've always kept it in the fridge because it's a delicate product.
There's so many levels as to how your beer can come out. A whole nother second chapter to brewing.
Sure.
I like the malt. It's not overwhelming, and you do have that bitterness that it lingers, it's there, but it is, the characteristic of this beer is yeast. That's the signature.
No, for sure.
What makes this beer so special.
The yeast, probably the primary yeast and the Brett. It's finishing it off.
Where would you drink this kind of beer?
Well, I normally keep it for special occasions for beer time. But the thing about the Belgians is they make beer that is meant to be drank with food. They can't make wine in Belgium. Climate is not right. The gastronomy, food and beer, that's for them important. And that's why they're making these kinds of beers. These are the wines of Belgium.
So sitting at 6%, hint of warmth?
Oh, you can.
Not push too many back.
But as far as they go, this is one of the lower ones.
Sure. It's an uphill battle living in Belgium. So let's talk about the design aspect of this. Quite unusual having a neck label as your main character. Yeah.
Look, I mean, the Belgians aren't the best at producing the most eccentric labels. Look at Westvleteren, it doesn't have a label.
Well said, Westvleteren.
Westvleteren. They pride themselves on tradition, not necessarily labeling. This just says we're from Orval, it's a Trappist Ale. There you go. It's
enjoy it. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
And they've been doing this label probably for many, many years. Yeah. And they haven't changed the beer probably for a long time.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next beer. Cool, our second beer is the Devil's Peak Black IPA. So we're going to be expecting a bit of burn characteristic coming through.
A little bit, yeah.
Going to be flanked by some hops.
It's not as much as our Blockhouse. There I do want some of the roast to come forward, combining the best of both. But it does have a hop character. It's an IPA, it's got to.
Let's do this. Yo, it looks beautiful. Talk us through this one.
So you'll see that it's not as black as something like a stout. The style kind of evolved from being called a Cascadian dark ale, which was not a black IPA, or not necessarily as black. And that's the whole fact that we don't want to push the malt too much. We don't want to overdo the roasted characters, the bitterness, the acrid character that you get. You still want it to be pretty smooth, and the bitterness from the hops must be there, not the malt.
We're getting some citrus in here.
Well, that's good.
Where's that from?
Citra.
It's like a lime peel.
Yeah.
I don't want to say like it's a Corona, but it's, you get that.
No, it's just like Corona. I mean,
Yeah,
almost the same color.
Identical. Yeah, so the main character for me is that Citra hop.
It's dry hopped traditionally for an IPA. But the nice thing about these kinds of beers, you get that roast character, but you get that freshness that the hop brings to it. It just brings like a fruity, fresh character. If you had to blindfold me and I hadn't seen the color, I wouldn't have known it's a dark black beer.
There is that black
roast.
patent malt darkness that's in there. It's quite creamy.
Well, we use certain malts that give body, things like wheat, and then something like a roasted wheat, which is going to give body. It's not going to have a husk, it's not going to give you phenols or rough character astringency, but it's going to give you the color, it's going to give you the body as well.
So a little tip there for you budding homebrewers out there. Dehusked
Malt.
Dehusked malt.
Husk.
Husk. Doesn't help. Well, actually, after a few of these, then you can speak any language. 6%, and it says here served between 6 and 9 degrees, so a little bit colder.
A little bit colder. It's got lower bitterness than our blockhouse.
It's actually quite a sessionable beer. It's not overwhelming. It's a very well-made beer. Well done. So talk us through the label. You were one of the first craft breweries in South Africa to actually put a bit of budget into your marketing, into your label.
There's been a journey. We brought out the first few beers and there was very little to see about Devil's Peak on the label. It was the First Light, it was the Blockhouse, it was Woodhead Silvertree. Here we've kind of done it a little bit differently, where we're putting Devil's Peak as being the primary focus on our labels and accentuating the name as opposed to the beer name. It's just a black IPA, but yes, it's got a name, the Black Southeaster. Very common climatic condition in Cape Town that we get. I'm not a weatherman.
You could tell me you're a weatherman, I'd believe you. I like the graphic elements, especially on the back. Well then, it's a delicious beer. I'm looking forward to having a few more. Our third beer is from New Zealand. It's an Imperial Stout and it's aged in Pinot Noir Barrels. It's called the Bumaye. Am I saying that right, JC?
I have no idea.
Would you like to give it a go?
The Bumaye.
We're trying the Bumaye. So this one's been sitting in my fridge for about probably a year now.
Really? It is one beer that can age though.
Okay, very little head. Can't be a bit more aggressive on the pour there. Why are we not getting the head there?
You do find that sometimes when beers age in barrel, the head components, the head proteins do break down.
Oh, it's 16%. It's 16%. Okay, this is a 330ml, and on here it says it is the equivalent of 4.2 standard drinks.
Nice.
So
Thanks
this is
for your buck.
4 beers in here. Woo!
Yeah, maybe it's not highly carbonated. It is a style that is not always super highly carbonated.
And I suppose when it does go into the barrel, that barrel does not help when it comes to carbonation.
No. And that's why a lot of the Belgian beers that go to barrel are so highly carbonated.
Sniff.
Oh, it's intense.
You can definitely pick up some dark grape.
Molasses.
You get a lot of sweet chocolates, the chocolate syrup that you put on a waffle or an ice cream.
Dark chocolate as well. It's a dessert beer.
This is a dessert beer. It's syrupy, it's thick,
it's rich. Treacle.
Definitely have to share this beer with someone. You can't be a stingy bastard and have this on your own, come home and pass out on the couch. Bit of Marmite actually.
Nice savory element, yeah.
That's obviously from the yeast combining with the malts.
Yeah, awesome color. It's got a lovely savory character.
Dip your toast in here. This is have a little meal.
I'm very surprised by the alcohol. Don't pick it up as 16%.
More like 10 to 12.
Yeah, like more like a traditional Imperial. It's actually got good balance.
These beers are very sneaky. You might think, oh, I can have a few of these.
Yeah.
It's not.
And you wake up in Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
With no clothes.
With your undies on your head, yeah. Sounds like a good story. Let's keep on drinking.
Delicious.
Now, where would you drink this kind of beer? After wine, in a log cabin,
Fire going, cold outside.
with all your mistresses.
Yeah, with all 7 of them. It's a dessert beer. You've had your meal, you've had a normal beer, maybe a lighter, sessionable beer, and you've gone to sit on the couch next to the fire, read the World Atlas.
I'm there already.
Cigar.
Yeah, it's actually a great beer to pair with a cigar. Complement that smokiness.
Well, that's what I find quite interesting. It just doesn't have a lot of smoke, malt, roast.
What about wood character?
I can feel the wood on the palate.
As if someone has taken a piece of bark
There's a little bit
and
of a
dragging it across
like
your tongue, but you don't taste it.
No,
or,
no.
yeah.
And it's not harsh. It's like a slight planky oak character.
Disclaimer, do not put some bark on your tongue when you get home. I do not take any responsibility for that. Starting to feel it now. I'm starting to feel it creep up a bit, and
Starts at the top of your head and works
it
its way
starts
down.
to wiggle down. So it's definitely a strong beer. I'm gonna have one more sip, and I'm gonna call it a day.
Call it a night.
Yeah, because otherwise
Put the fire out. And kill
that's
the
my day.
cigar.
It's done. New Zealand are also making some nice beers now. It's kind of like a hidden gem. I want to say like South Africa in that it's isolated and it's got their own hops, their own malts, their own kind of style.
They've got a super industry for that, for making beer. I don't know a hell of a lot about the industry.
We should go.
We should go. It's not far.
Maybe Beertime can
I
organize.
have a kayak.
I have a wind sail.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go. It's definitely a special occasion beer that you'd save to have with friends or family.
You're not going to drink heaps.
You're not going to buy a 6-pack. It'd be great if you bought a 6-pack and
You're definitely not going to drink a 6.
you probably wouldn't make it past 2.
No.
1. Cool, so let's talk about the label. What I like about this label is that they're using colors that aren't regularly seen on a beer bottle. Dark red, you've got some yellow, and then some dark brown. It stands out.
Like the KGB colors.
It's like the KGB colors, exactly.
Russian Imperial.
I'm very interested to try some of the other beers.
How did you get it?
I bought it in a bottle store in Spain.
Look, it's one beer you can buy off a shelf anywhere and it'll be okay.
No, it's delicious. Well, I think that's all we
That's it.
have for today on these beers. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Fantastic.
I suppose the only beer that you can really get in South Africa right now is this bad boy. How old is it? It's quite new.
Yeah, not 2 weeks.
2 weeks. There we go. So you saw it first, hopefully, on #BeerTime. JC, thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Cool.
you.